But it is not available now, but we will work very hard to get this up and running just as quickly as we can.
So would you think 2 months, 2.5 months is enough time to get everybody onto this new ID?
The beauty of this new ID is that when you go to a photo identification center, you present the information and the photo identification center issues you the photo ID on the spot. There's no waiting. And we will be keeping driver's licenses centers open right up until, including Election Day, for people who need to get photo IDs. Yes, ma'am.
Hi. I guess my question is, we heard about people who have tried to go to PennDOT 5 or 6 times to get the new ID that's required under the law. What is going to happen now that driver's law is legislated to make PennDOT a little more user-friendly so that people who want to take advantage of getting this ID, being able to get their license, can do so without it taking them, in some cases, weeks and months at a time?
I'm glad you asked that question. I have been in preparation for the hearings that are going to take place starting tomorrow. And I don't know about you, but I've had unpleasant experiences in departments of motor vehicles in 3 states. So this is an opportunity, and I hope the people at PennDOT are watching. We need to have our best customer service people on the front line at PennDOT to provide these drivers, non-driver's licenses, and the Department of State photo IDs. And we will be working with PennDOT, and there is a tremendous commitment on the part of Department of Transportation to meet the challenge of providing all of the photo IDs that we need.
Secretary,
yes.
How much are the special IDs costing?
It will cost the same thing as a non-driver license
Will it cost each person money, or will it
No, it will be free of charge. It will cost the state of Pennsylvania about $13.50. And I have not dissected that $13.50 charge. We have set aside $1 million. So if you divide, quick in your heads, $1 million by $13.50, we're talking about something like 85,000 photo IDs we're ready to issue, and we have less than 3,000 people who have come in to get them. So part of the reason we're working so hard with the outreach group and with the press, you guys have been wonderful because there's been so much press about voter ID. So many people in Pennsylvania already know they need photo ID. We need, if we're only at a little less than 3,000, we got to get up to 85,000 if that's truly the number of people who need photo IDs.
How does that jive with the 758,000?
I'm so glad you asked. We are having just a time with the 759,000 number that was reported, and it's the number we had when we did the match between the voter registration names and the PennDOT names. And what we're finding, the first batch of letters went out to the city of Philadelphia and to Allegheny County, and I think more letters have gone out since then. There are so many, we're having trouble with the match, and this is the kind of thing that computers are wonderful things, but sometimes they don't make the judgment calls you need to make. For instance, Senator Yaw talked to me last week, and his name, he uses the name Gene Yaw. He actually has another that is his birth name. That's on his driver's license, but his registration is under Gene Yaw. So he got a letter from me saying he didn't have a driver's license. He in fact does have a driver's license. People on my staff friends have gotten letters from me saying that we understand that you may not have a Pennsylvania issued photo ID, and they're calling us saying, oh, I do have a Pennsylvania photo ID. I don't know why I got a letter because the name didn't match. For instance, if your last name is McDonald, and in the registration database there is no space between Mick and Donald, but in your, on your vital statistics, your birth certificate, there is a space, then that's not a match. There was an article in the Philadelphia Inquirer about Jimmy Tyone, who is a famous Philadelphia public servant. His name is, I think, James J. Tyone Sr., and on his that's his name on his driver's license, but his name on his voter registration is Jimmy Tyone. It won't come up through it won't come up in our match as a match, but poll workers will be instructed to allow votes where the name substantially matches. The name on the card substantially matches the name of the person who is preparing to vote. Yes, sir.
I spoke with a gentleman outside who was a Korean War veteran.
Yes.
And he said, he showed me a letter that he had from you, and he said he would not be able to use his his veteran's card because it didn't have an expiration date on it. Is that accurate?
I haven't seen his card. We have military ID cards are valid. I have a military ID card. Mine has an expiration date on it. You have to be either active duty military or you have to be retired. If you once served in the military and have some kind of a veteran's insurance card, that's not the same thing. You have to be either active duty military or retired to use your military ID card. The Veterans Administration issues Veterans Administration cards that are similar to health insurance cards, and they're not the same thing. Yes?
Secretary, some of these problems you have with the database and that you have on time to put together, would you be able to work through those issues?
I think we're working through them pretty effectively right now. We will know, for instance, as soon as the Postal Department returns those letters that go to addressee unknown, we can let you know how many in our database have moved from the address that they provided for their original voter registration. So that'll take the number down dramatically. 167,000 of the 759,000 voters are 167,000 are already inactive, and we think that they probably have moved from Pennsylvania and are no longer active voters here. And then we're looking at the number of people who have other forms of ID, because our intent is to address our mission to making sure that all 8.2 million registered voters in Pennsylvania have photo ID. So we are targeting our message certainly to those groups that we can identify as maybe not having photo ID, but our message is going to go to all 8.2 million and encourage them. That's what you can help us with. Encourage them to get photo ID. Did I call on you yet?
No.
Okay.
Saying is Governor Corbett, as Attorney General, didn't prosecute a single case, and you couldn't cite a single case of voter impersonation fraud during hearings. How is this law not election fraud?
I think it's about having fair and honest elections in Pennsylvania. I've been asked this question tons of times in the last few months, and I'm not a huge student of American history, but if you think about it, voter fraud has been part of the American experience since the very beginning. I couldn't make a statement in all good faith and say to you that there is no voter fraud in the United States and there's no voter fraud in Pennsylvania. What I hope to do with this law is to make sure that every eligible voter has a photo ID and we have more fair and honest elections in Pennsylvania. Yes?
The Attorney General's office signed a stipulation a few weeks ago saying that they do not have to present evidence of in-person voter fraud that has occurred in the Commonwealth or evidence that such fraud might occur in September without this law. Does that not undercut the argument for this law?
Your question was
The Attorney General's office
in Pennsylvania or the United States Attorney General's office?
Pennsylvania
Okay.
Attorney General's office signed a stipulation for filing along with the attorney's plea petitioner
the General Assembly's rationale for the law, and I think the elected officials in Pennsylvania saw a need to build confidence in the election process here in Pennsylvania. And as I said, photo ID won't end voter fraud, but it'll take us a step closer to helping people see that when they go in to vote, their vote counts, and the person who wins the election wins fairly. And I think that's an issue. Now, the Attorney General is not going to pursue the issue of cases brought for voter impersonations, for voter fraud. And if there are cases, there are very few. And with a tremendous amount of respect for what goes down in the 67 counties for the district attorneys, as a former county commissioner, the funding for all kinds of county services is very limited. If you're a district attorney in a county and you have a choice to prosecute crimes like murder, rape, and armed robbery, you're going to do that before you go after the voter fraud cases. And we are always struggling to adequately fund at least our district attorney's offices. So that's an issue. I talk to fourth graders. I go around the state and I talk to fourth graders about how a bill becomes a law. And I talk to seniors in high school. I have been to more than 30 schools, and I talk about how important it is for them to register to vote and participate in the process. When I talk to them, I want to be able to tell them that we are doing everything we can to make sure that their vote counts. It's a hard sell with high school kids, that it's important for them to be a voter, it's important for them to vote, and then when they vote, their vote counts. And part of the process is how we count the votes. And that's what we're doing here. I grew up under I lived through the 2000 election. And I don't know, and probably never will know, what happened in Florida in 2000. But it certainly eroded a lot of my confidence in the way votes are counted nationally. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You've been very patient.
Back to the numbers. I'm trying to understand getting from about 758,000 to 85,000. You mentioned computer mismatches, inactive voters, move-outs. Is that 85,000 figure real?
Help me with this. Help me with this. I've gone back and looked at the numbers. 9.6 million Pennsylvanians. This is according to the 2010 census conducted by the United States government. They say that we have 9.6 and change people who are 18 years of age or older in Pennsylvania and are citizens. So, I'd say that's our target number. And we've got 8.2 registered, but there are 9.6 out there who are people who are of the right age and citizens and could be voting. All right, now we go to the PennDOT database, and there are 9.5 million residents, 18 years of age. We took all the kids out, anyone who is less than 18 years of age. There are 9.5 million names in the PennDOT database. So where do we come up with this number except from the bad match or people who have left the state? When you leave the state of Pennsylvania, you're supposed, and you go to another state, you're supposed to get a driver's license in the next state. Similarly, if you move to Pennsylvania from another state, you have to register. If you're going to drive or have a Pennsylvania ID, you have to register with PennDOT. The 9.5 million in the PennDOT database should be fairly accurate, and the 9.6 in the United States 2010 census should be accurate. One of them isn't. Maybe both of them aren't. Take 9.5 divided by 9.6 and you get 99%. That's what we did. Yes? Wait a second. You had first.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else?
Over here.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned the year 2000. I was going to ask you about this. Does your department have any plans or contingencies in case it's election night
We are in a Florida-type situation, and the vote in Pennsylvania is uncertain because of problems with this law.
I didn't hear quite the first part of the question.
You mentioned 2000.
2000, yes.
We're in a 2000 situation on November 6th, and the Pennsylvania vote is in doubt because of problems with this law. You made any kind of contingency planning in your department or any thought of this?
We will be working very hard between now and the day of the election to make sure that we have all of the mechanisms in place to accurately count the vote. And we are similarly addressing our message, a very comprehensive public education message to make sure that all 8.2 million registered voters in Pennsylvania know they need photo ID. There was a reporter in Bucks County who said, you're all going to be sick about hearing about photo ID by the time November rolls around, and I certainly hope that you are. We do not plan to have any hang-ups in this election, and we will, I think it'll go very smoothly. Yes, ma'am, in the back.
Hi. You mentioned that the whole purpose, sorry. Suddenly feels so official.
So do I.
You mentioned something about the importance of pictures versus signatures in terms of determining who's actually taking a vote at your polling place. I don't know a whole lot of people who could fake my signature, because it's pretty unique, and as is the signature of most people. So I guess my question is, why is this other safeguard necessary when, unless you're like some sort of forgery expert, you're not going to be able to duplicate someone's signature to a letter?
Think about it this way. With a photo ID card, you will not only have your picture, so an election worker can look at your picture and look at your face, and they can also, you're going to have a signature on your photo ID card. It will be the same signature that's in the election book. And that'll be the same signature you're going to write down. This should be all the same. What questions? Did I ask you yet? Okay.
You know, with the latest special voter ID card, is there any assurance you can give that that's going to be the last time the line will change when it comes to what people need to vote? It seems like the line keeps changing.
If we can find more ways to make it easier for people to get photo ID to comply with the law, we're going to keep trying. And I know we worked through the issue of native Pennsylvanians getting birth certificates more quickly. We went through the issues with PennDOT. If you ever had a Pennsylvania driver's license and you're in the database, all you need to do is go into the PennDOT licensing center and give your name. These are ways that we make it easier for Pennsylvanians to get photo ID. The Department of State license, or the Department of State photo ID is one more way. And if there's another way I can find to make it easier for people to get photo ID, let me know. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Not to continue on this question, but can you give us an estimation of how many people might not have an ID compared to 85 versus 300s of thousands? If you can give us a general figure. And then secondly, what would you tell people outside the hall who maybe see this law in a different way and see it as a blatant and simply to disadvantage us?
We are looking at we continue to look at the numbers, the first part of your question. And I'm back to the numbers that I have. A census says we have 9.6 million citizens who are 18 years of age or older and could be voters in Pennsylvania. The PennDOT registration database says we have 9.5 people in Pennsylvania who are 18 years of age or older and could be registered voters. I'm going on those numbers and with reliance that the United States government and the Department of Transportation are accurate in this. Those are the best numbers we've got. We will be able to tell after this. We know already, right now, we know that 91% of the 8.2 million voters in Pennsylvania have photo ID because they already matched, and 91% is a lot. So we're looking for the last the last group, and we think the last group got messed up with the match. We think, we know that 167,000 are inactive voters. So help us find the last group of folks and get them the photo IDs that they need. The second part of your question was?
How you would, what would you say to people outside the hall how to understand the law? It's simply not disenfranchised.
I hope they'll listen to what I'm saying, what the people in the Department of State are saying, and our commitment to the 8.2 registered voters in Pennsylvania to make sure that they have the appropriate photo ID to vote in November. That's what we're working with. That we are putting all of our time and all of our energy into making sure that happens.
Given that,
Yes.
given that there's once this new photo ID is made available, there will be about 2.5 months. Is there a safety net that's going to be put in place for anyone who's been a registered voter, an active voter, and maybe can't get a new ID by November 6th?
Okay. If you go in to vote on November 6th and you do not, for any one of them, a lot of reasons, you don't have a photo ID. Everything from, gee, I forgot my photo ID, to, oh, I didn't know I could get a Department of State ID. We're going to try to address, we're going to do the education campaign between now and then. So we are going to make sure that everyone hears it. Whether they do it or not, I don't know. But let's just say that they come in to vote on Election Day and they don't have photo ID. We are going to instruct all election workers to encourage them to vote provisionally. If they don't have a photo ID, they can go, if they have one and they forgot it, they can send it by mail, they can take it to a voter services center in their county, they can scan it and email it, or they can fax it, and their vote will count. If they don't have a photo ID and they need one, we're going to encourage them to go immediately to a driver's licensing. Say they forgot, somehow we missed them in this education drive, go right to the nearest photo ID center, get a photo ID, they can get a Department of State photo ID, and their vote will count. I think we'll be relying on a lot of the people who, if it's a close election, certainly we're going to know the names of the people who cast provisional ballots and encourage them to take the next step and make sure that their vote counts. And we'll be calling on all of you to help us with that.